Get started. PhoneVentures, that's the name of the simulation you will be playing. How does it work then? Well, first I'll tell you in big lines how it works. Then I'll tell you how to log in, that's step one. Then how to analyze the information that's given to you, because that's the first step of every round that you'll be managing your company. And of course, very true for this very first time logging in. You have to click around a lot and gather a lot of information. Once you've gathered some information, you should be set to come up with a strategy you'll be running your company with, or in other words, a business plan. Once you have a business plan, you're all set to take decisions like what kind of quality and price phones will I be selling? How am I going to implement your business plan into your decisions? My final slide is on how to win the game. You'll be playing the game or the simulation in teams. With your team, you are managing your own brand selling phones. So you're not manufacturing the phones, you're trading in smartphones. So you purchase them and sell them all for a higher price. You will have to manage your phone brand for a couple of rounds. Each of those rounds is equal to a year of operations. And that means that you take decisions such as what quality and price will I sell for. You'll be selling your phone for a full round at that quality and price. At the end of the round, you get results for the whole year. How many phones did you sell in the year? Your balance sheet and income statement will be updated. Anyways, you'll be managing your phone company for a couple of years, a couple of rounds. There's also some practice years, practice rounds where you get to take the decisions. You will get some results. And at the end, those results will not matter. So two practice results, two practice rounds. In the start, the very first round, there's only one or two, or I believe 3 countries available. As the rounds and the game progresses, more countries will open up for you to decide, will I enter or not? Will I start selling my phones in this country as well or not? The game is highly competitive, which means that you are competing against other student teams and not against the system. So as you are competing against the other teams, they're also selling smartphones, of course. A good example to give is that if one of the teams doesn't purchase enough inventory, there might be lots of customers that wanted to buy their phone, but because they didn't purchase enough inventory, they'll walk to one of the other competitors, the other competing teams. Another example, if all teams but one decide to sell high quality phones for highest prices, it would be really easy to sell some lower quality, lower priced phones out there, because there's lots of different types of customers out there. It will be impossible for one company to claim 100% of the market. Analyzing the competition really gives you an advantage, because they are the ones that you're competing against, not the system. There's going to be a winner, so it's nice to know you all start in the same position, have an equal chance to become that winner. Quickly summarizing, you're managing your smartphone brand for a couple of years, 2 practice years. You are not manufacturing smartphones, but you do have some research and development decisions. So just like Apple, you do have the R&D in your control, but you don't take care of the manufacturing yourself. You start off simple with a couple of countries available. Later on, more and more countries will become available for you to sell your phones in. The first step is logging in. I'll skip right over it because you will receive a piece of paper that has the game name, your username, and the password, as well as the website. Once you're logged in, click around a bit, gather as much information as you can, because the more information you have, of course, the better suited you'll be to come up with a nice strategy and to take wise decisions. It's nice to split it up every round. You have to keep track of what's going on outside of your company, as well as what's going on inside of your company. This is very true for this first round that you'll be playing, but that should be true for the beginning of every round, right? You start analyzing your results, what's happening around you. Then likely you know a bit more how you can improve for the upcoming year. And then it's time to start making the decisions that allow you to improve. First, analyze information and come up with some interesting points that you want to use when taking decisions to improve. So take a look at what's happening outside your company, the market segments that are out there, the market sizes, are they growing or shrinking perhaps? What's the competition doing? Read the news items in the simulation. They might be telling you valuable information in a certain round. Perhaps the market's growing by 20%. Well, you'll need probably 20% more inventory then. But you cannot run your company successfully only looking to the world around you. You have to also keep track of what's happening inside your company. For instance, did you order enough inventory or way too much? Do you have enough staff working for you, or perhaps you need to hire more? Your financial sheets, of course, are you turning a profit? Do you still have cash left? All important things to know when trying to run your company into success. So quickly summarizing, you're managing your phone brand for a couple of years, first 2 practice years, competing against the other student teams that are selling their phone brand. You log in, then click around a bit to gather some information, perhaps about the market sizes and what type of customers are out there. Perhaps read the news, come up with a nice strategy. Who are you going to be as a company, and how will your company be different from the other teams that are also selling phones? Under business plan, you'll find a couple of tools that will help you determine your strategy. So go through it, discuss with your team, how am I going to grow my company? Very aggressively or perhaps a bit more slowly? Am I going to be focusing more on delivering the highest quality, or cutting costs so I can deliver the lowest prices? Well, it's up to you. Perhaps have a discussion about the SWOT analysis, especially focusing on the opportunities and threats that you find in this first round. Most important of the business plan is setting targets. You will have to choose out of a whole list of about 20 targets. You will have to choose 5. One of those 5 will be your most important targets, and I'll show you the targets later on. But if you don't set those 5 targets, you're missing out on points. In fact, if you don't set any targets, you cannot score any points. Even if you are turning the highest income, selling the most phones, you can only score points if you set those targets. Luckily, you have 2 rounds to practice with this, so don't worry. Yeah. So discuss with your team, who are you going to be? How will you, as a company, how will you be different from the other student teams, the other companies? Well, once you've clicked around, come up with a strategy, then it's time to take this list of decisions. I would advise you to start off with the strategy and then move on to taking these decisions, because taking the decisions will be quite easy if you already know who you are going to be as a company. All you have to do is implement that plan that you had into all of these decisions. That's also a great way to help align all of your decisions, to make sure that all of your decisions fit well with your other decisions. Good. This list of decisions will have to be taken every round. So every round you go through this list of decisions, make some changes. At the end of the round, we will give you some results that reflect on how well your decisions have been performing. Also, of course, affected by the decisions of the other teams, as you're sharing a market. They could affect your income, etc. Well, you have to decide which countries you would like to sell your phones in, and a few decisions for each of those countries, such as what price will you sell your phone for. You have to hire some managers and tell them what they'll be spending their time on. Human resource department is all about your personnel, of course. How much staff will you hire? Will you pay them well? Will you train them well? That sort of stuff. Product is where you determine the quality of your product. And of course, the product is linked to your purchasing cost, high quality, high purchasing cost. And you can invest in R&D to change the future characteristics of your phone. Distribution, You choose one company to ship your phones from the manufacturer to your warehouse in all of these countries that you've entered. Marketing is all about budgets, spending money to reach your customers, your target audience. So if you spend more, you'll reach more customers, but you can also try to make it more efficient and spend your money on the customers that really matter to you, your target audience. Financials, you can skip for the first real round, and especially for these first 2 practice rounds, I would not take on a new loan. Taking on a loan is only necessary when you have cash issues. Otherwise, you're just taking on a loan and increasing your interest costs. Yeah. So quickly summarizing, you will now all be managing a smartphone company with your team, running this smartphone company for a couple of rounds, competing against the other student teams that are also managing their own smartphone company. You log in with the piece of paper that you will receive, then click around a bit to gather information, especially about the market, about the news items. Come up with a nice strategy of who you're going to be and how you will be different from the other teams. Then implement that decisions in all of these decisions. Try to take as much of these decisions as you can, so you get valuable feedback from the system before you have to run your first real round. Don't forget to set your targets or you cannot score points. It's nice to have a bit of a practice with those targets in the practice round as well. Well, how do you win then? Is keep a close eye on your 5 targets. How have you been performing on those 5 targets? In any of the round, you can change any of the decisions, even your targets. So at the end of any round, take a look at your targets. Did you achieve all of your targets? Or perhaps you should lower your targets a bit so you can actually achieve them, or change your targets out for other ones. Every round, try to score more points on your targets, of course. Try to keep positive owner's equity. In other words, don't lose too much money. I believe it's about 500 million that you have to lose before you become bankrupt. But once you're bankrupt, you have to take on a loan to pay your bills. And you will have to also pay the interest cost. And of course, those interest costs will make it only more difficult to turn a profit. And any round that you don't turn a profit, you only receive a small portion of the points available for your targets. So if you scored 100 points in your target in any round, in a specific round, and you don't turn a profit, you will only get 75 points instead of 100. So 75%. Next tip is take a slow start when entering new countries, especially when you're entering some new large countries like US or China or India. And that is because the first year when you enter a new country, that's usually the most expensive year, because you don't have any inventory in the first week. You haven't done any marketing there yet, so nobody knows you. Well, try to not make a huge loss in that first year of entering a new country. Stay up to date by reading the news. It's just easy. You'd be stupid to not read the news. Try to figure out what can you do to protect your company against negative news, or how can you benefit from positive news. So yeah, really important part, and you don't want to miss out on huge impactors from outside your company. Final point, I said it before, make sure you start off with the strategy and then move on to taking the decisions. Otherwise, you will have decisions that are all over the place, and there will be a customer out there that likes half of your decisions, but think the other half have been taken terribly. So, I've been talking a lot. Please let me finish for 10 more minutes, and then I'll get to your questions. Let me quickly show you what the simulation looks like, and yeah, give some additional tips and tricks. Once you're logged in, this is the first screen you'll see. Hope it's big enough. Let me see if I can make it a bit bigger. Yeah. This is the dashboard page. On this page, you'll find a collection of things you'll find on other pages. So I won't talk about the dashboard page too much. I do want to say that this feedback tool, click on it, you'll get a collection of the largest issues in your company. So click on it to make sure you're not reading over the largest issues in your company. But please know that it's only looking at the largest issues that the system found based on your strategy. So there might be lots of tiny mistakes that are not reflected in this dashboard, but because we are aware that you have to read a lot of results, we want to make sure you don't skip over the largest ones. So do make sure that you go through this. But for instance, market, if you are, well, here we see there's a comment from the price segment customers and from customer-oriented market customers. So please know that there might be feedback from several customer segments, and you yourself have to figure out which customer is more important to me then, if they are saying something different from one another. So that's the feedback tool. Yeah. Let's start off where I always start, the company profile. You can set up a name for your company, a little introduction, a slogan, and you can upload your own logo. You can add yourself as a board member, and when you do, perhaps have a quick discussion with your team what you're good at. You are managing this company as a team, so as any company, try to take advantage of each other's strengths. So if you're good at marketing, perhaps you want to be the marketing director. If you're a great leader, perhaps you want to be the CEO. I would advise you to have a quick discussion about that. The introduction text. This will open up the first round you log in. Then you can click it away. It won't pop up when you log in anymore. You can still find it under profile. For the 3 countries that are open in the start, you'll find these numbers. And yeah, I've logged into a demo environment, so I can show you a bit more results that are not available to you yet in the first round. So let's go over these numbers so you know what they mean. Yeah, and we can find these numbers if we go to the decisions of the Netherlands as well. Let me first explain them. In all of the countries, you'll find 3 customer segments. The price segment, these customers are really sensitive to price. So if you increase your quality and price by 10%, likely these guys are not too happy with you. They are so sensitive to price. The quality segment customers, quite the opposite end of the spectrum. They're really sensitive to quality. So if you were to raise the quality and price by 10%, likely they'd be quite happy with you. The customer intimacy segment, they are less sensitive than the price segment, less sensitive to price than the price segment. The customer intimacy segment is less sensitive to quality than the quality segment. So you don't have to do too well on price and quality to sell phones here. But of course, these customers also have things they find really important. Customer intimacy segment, they really care about social responsibility. A company that cares not only about profit, but also about its employees, about society and environment around it. So a company that's trying to build a long-lasting relationship with the customer. Then the numbers in the Netherlands, every year, there are 750,000. And again, take a look at your own numbers. They might be different. They might change a bit year to year. But every year in the Netherlands, there's about 750,000 customers looking to buy a low-priced phone. Every year in the Netherlands, there's 100,000 people that belong to that quality segment and are very sensitive to quality. Also, every year they're buying a phone. And again, every year in the Netherlands, there's 160,000 customers looking to buy a phone from a friendly brand, I would like to call it. So the yearly demands. Yeah. So perhaps it's a nice place to start off to analyze already some numbers about the simulation. Perhaps click around a bit more when you log in your first time, and then with your team come up with a strategy. So for this generic strategy, what are you going to be? How will you be different? A SWOT analysis, especially thinking about those large opportunities and threats that you want to take advantage of in the first round. Perhaps come up with a vision statement. You have to set 5 targets. There's a whole list of targets, some focusing on financials, some focusing on the customer, some focusing on internal, such as how am I doing on sustainability or inventory, education and the education level and motivation level of my employees. So we see there's a whole list of options. You have to choose 5, otherwise you're just missing out on points. One of those 5 is your most important target, selected as your KPI target. The points for that specific target will be multiplied by 5. So it could earn you more points than those other 4 targets combined, as the target points for this target are multiplied by 5. Well, how did it work then, the targets? Any target is equal. Let me go. Yeah, any target is equal in that if I drag it all the way to the left, there's a potential maximum for 100 points. If I do really well on the target. If I drag it all the way to the left, to the right, making it more risky, more difficult to achieve the target, there is more points available, of course, if I achieve the target. So now it's 200 if I achieve it, next to the potential of 100 points. So try to set it as high as you can achieve. Try to find some targets that fit well with your strategy. That way you get the benefit of making the decisions that allow you to reach your target. Should also help sell more phones if it fits your strategy. So 5 targets, one of them your KPI. Decide how you like to grow your company. Come up with your sustainability policy. Then once you've come up with the strategy, implement that strategy into the decisions. I won't go over all of them, but let's go over a few of them. Under countries, you decide which countries you would like to enter. For instance, Belgium. If I click on it, I have to select enter this market. And at the bottom of each page, there's a save button. You can click it as many times as you like. Nothing happens until the deadline. So only the last saved decisions, they count for your results. So you take this whole list of the decisions, and then at a certain point in time, the round finishes and all teams get their result at the exact same time, and those results count for a whole year. So your balance sheet, you'll have a balance sheet to start off with, and nothing will change until that deadline that all the results will calculate. So again, don't forget to press the save button, otherwise you'll have to fill out your work again. Don't be afraid, you can adjust it even after you click the save button. Well, perhaps let's start with the information on the right. We see that there's a yearly cost to being in Belgium. We see that the system is actually a competitor, but the main competitor are the other student teams. In this country, the system is really almost not there. There's barely any competition from the system. Again, even if there's a heavy competition from the system, your main competition will be the other student teams. The system is not such a strong competitor. How important to define sustainability? What's the corruption level in the country like? How many workers are you advised to take on if you enter this country? In reality, the number you need could be a bit higher or lower. Perhaps if you sell a lot of phones in that country, you need 1 or 2 more. Well, this is the advice to hire at least 2 extra headquarter employees if you enter Belgium. Then here below, we see those same numbers that we saw before. And perhaps I should click on the Netherlands so we see the numbers that we discussed. So you'll see the price segment. Well, we see that the numbers have already started changing a little bit to the beginning situation, but this is the yearly number of customers that are there, yearly demands for all three customer segments. A little bit information about the cost for local employees, some other things about the cultural dimensions, so hopefully allow you to think whether, allow you to figure out whether this country fits well with your strategy. Then for the decisions, you have to set up your sales price. There's some marketing options for this country, HR options for this country, and then your inventory management. First, determine the size of your warehouse in that country. That determines what the maximum inventory is, of course. So let's pick a large one, 50,000. Then below here, we set the reorder point. So this is how much of my warehouse would I like to use? Well, let's use the full warehouse, I would say. This is my reorder point. If I set it to 0, that means I'm waiting until I've sold all 50,000 phones. Then I'm making an order of 50,000, and those 50,000 phones will reach my warehouse in 1 to 6 weeks, depending on the distributor that you've chosen. So let's go to that decision next. We have one distributor that comes every 3 weeks. There's one that comes 6 weeks. So in that case, you would have 0 phones to sell for 6 weeks. So keep in mind when you like to set that reorder point. Don't set it to 0 if you have a slow distributor. Perhaps in the first round, choose a quick distributor because you have no idea how many sales you can expect. Because the other competitors are a huge influence and you don't know what they're going to do yet. There's quick ones that come every week, 29 euros per phone, and there's slow ones, once in 6 weeks, 10 euros per phone. Again, don't forget to click the save button. Product. I would like to show you that you can click on the stars. That will change the level of quality phones that you're selling. So we see that if I click on a higher quality phone, my cost price, the price you pay per phone, also increases or decreases. So we see a 1-star phone is a lot cheaper than a 5-star phone. You guys will start off with the top 2 stars not being available. You can only click on the 1 to 5 stars. To get the last 2 stars available, you will have to make some investments in R&D. And that's below these options, also at the product decisions. You can hire more researchers to get a larger R&D budget. You can give each researcher more budget. And let's just use the max to show you what kind of progress you can expect. If I invest my entire R&D budget, a huge budget I just said, we see below what kind of progress we can expect. And in this message is explained what will that progress do for my company. One of them is quality research to unlock stars. Well, that will allow you to unlock this 6 and 7 star and deliver higher quality phones. Don't forget the save button, or you have to fill out your work again. I won't go over the other decisions. Don't take on a loan in the first round. That's a tip. Because in your results, you'll see in your balance sheet, you start out with about 500 million in the bank. So if you take on a loan, you'll have more cash and you'll have to pay interest cost. Well, you have plenty of cash to start off with. You have an income statement. Those income statements will also be split up for an income statement per country. Perhaps take a look at that as well, especially if you're turning a loss. You might be turning a profit in one of the countries and turning a loss in another. A cash flow statement, not per country, only for the whole company. Your inventory results, there's this graph. I find it a bit confusing because there's 52 dots. I like to click on the table where I see for all 52 weeks, what was the level of sales like? Or sorry, what was the level of demand? How many people wanted to buy my phone? How many did I actually sell? How much came in that week? And how much was left at the end of the week? We see in red when there was more demand, more people that wanted to buy my phone, then I actually had phones in my warehouse. So we see that in week 17, this team, they only had a little under 3,000 left at the end of the week 17. The next week, 6,000 people wanted to buy their phones, so they could only sell the amount they had left until the new inventory arrived. So take a look at their inventory results at the end of the round, because perhaps you're not turning a profit just because you didn't purchase enough inventory. Staff, they tell you whether you've hired enough staff or too little. If you hired externals, the system is telling you you hired too little and it helped you by hiring expensive employees. Try to avoid hiring externals by hiring enough yourself. So a pink bar is dangerous. Then below, we can also track if perhaps we hired way too many. So we see the workload at 100% means they're working every minute of the day. If it's at 50%, they're not doing anything half the day. Yeah, I won't go over too much of the results and the decisions. I would like you to know that there is a positioning matrix where at the end of the round, you'll be able to see where are the other competitors on price and quality, and the size of the circle showing the revenues. And yeah, you'll get to see how you performed on your targets. Did you achieve them or not? How many points did you get for those targets? And here, and I won't go over too much because there will be a Q&A where we explain more of these numbers, but you can click on one of these circles, or actually all of them, to see why did I score a high market share with that segment, or perhaps a low market share with the segment. Well, this score and these scores should explain it, but I won't go over too much because this has already been a long enough meeting. A final note is communication. Here you will find the deadlines for each of the rounds. I won't show you this because this is a demo. Other deadlines. You will find the news messages. Be sure to read it and discuss how can you take benefit from the news or protect yourself against this negative news. You can upload your own press message or marketing campaign, but the competitors will be able to see this.